Good morning, everybody. We're on the bottom of Chaf Beis Amud Beis at the Gemara. The Mishnah is talking about how you phrase a shavua that you're not going to eat. And the first thing that the Mishnah had said was that if a person takes a shavua that he's not going to eat, period, let's say for a specific period of time, and then during that time he both eats and he drinks. So the chiddush of the Mishnah is that even though drinking is a form of eating, you're only in violation once because it's all being done under the rubric of eating. So you're in violation of the shavua once, and therefore you only bring one korban if this was done in violation of the shavua. Okay? So, based on that, the Gemara tells us a principle. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abin Amar Shmuel, Shavua shelo ochal v'shasa chayev. Ibayis ema svara v'ibayis ema kra. That if a person takes a vow that they're not going to eat, and they don't eat, but they end up drinking as a glass of orange juice instead. So the halacha is that he's in violation of the Shavua, because drinking is a form of eating. Now, I can prove this from logic, and I can also prove this from scripture. So, Iba Yasema Svara, da Amar Le'inish Lechavre Nitomidi, Va'ili Va'achli V'shasa. The logic is that let's look at the way people speak in the vernacular. A person says to his friend, come, let's have something to eat. And he invites him over, and not only does he give him to eat, but he gives him to drink as well. And so therefore that shows you that eating is a generic, all-encompassing term for consumption. Okay, v'iba yisei makra. And I'll also bring a pasuk to prove my point. That shasi is bichlal achila from where? The Amar Shreish Lakish, minayin l'shasi shehi bichlal achila, shenemar. How do you know that drinking is subsumed under eating? Because the pasuk says, v'achalta lifnei Hashem Elokecha b'makom asher yivchar, l'shakein shemo sham, Masar deganacha v'siroshacha, etc. The Torah says, referring to eating of Meiser Sheni, it says, you shall eat before Hashem in the place which he shall choose to place his presence, all of your tithes, your grain, and your tirosh, etc. Now, the tirosh chamruch siviachalta. Now, tirosh means wine. And the Torah says, eat your wine. So you see that eating is a term that includes both eating and drinking. So the Gemara says, but wait a minute. V'dilma al yedei anigron. Da Amar Rabbi bar Shmuel, anigron maya de silki, ach sigron maya de kulu shilki. He says, but wait a minute. When the Torah says, eat your wine, maybe it's referring to wine that is placed in a food item, because there are times when you can make a food item that's prepared with wine. As Rabbi had taught us that the word anigron refers to a beet dish that is prepared with wine and other beverages, and achsigron is a boiled vegetable dish that's made with different kinds of beverages as well. Sort of like, so this anigron, the way the Gemara is describing it now, is like a borscht, where you mix beets with other things, but it's really more of a solid food than it is a liquid. And maybe that's what the Torah means when it says, eat your wine. Eat your wine in a dish, not as a beverage. So you can't prove it necessarily from that pasuk. So, Ela Amar Ravacha bar Yaakov mehacha v'nosata hakesef b'chol asher te'aveh nafshecha b'bakaru v'atzonu v'yayinu v'ashechar. The Torah talking about redeeming Meiser Sheni produce and bringing the coinage up to Yerushalayim says that when you spend those coins, purchase whatever you want. Purchase livestock, purchase wine, purchase sheichar, which is an intoxicating beverage, and, says the Gemara, yayin chamruch sivi achalta. And wine in that pasuk is a beverage, and yet it still says, eat it. The end of the pasuk says, v'achalta, eat it in front of Hashem. But the Gemara says, but we're back to our same question. But there too, maybe when the Torah says, eat your wine, it's referring to wine prepared in a dish like anigra. But the Gemara says, no. Sheicher ksiv mididim meshacher. But the word sheicher is used, and the word sheicher means an intoxicant, something that intoxicates. Now, when you make a borscht with wine, there's not enough wine in there in the proper concentration to be able to intoxicate you. So the word sheichar must be referring to an intoxicant, and the only intoxicant that we know is in beverage form. So therefore, you see that eating includes drinking. The Gemara says, but wait a minute. V'dilma devela ke'ilis, Tanya achal devela ke'ilis, v'shasa devash v'chol v'nichnas l'mikdash v'avad chayev. But 1 second, there is a food, a solid food that does intoxicate. It's called a devela ke'ilis, which is a fig or date cake, which is fermented. So the fruit, when it ferments, has an intoxicating quality to it. And so much so that the Brisa says that if a Kohen were to consume this, or if he were to mix honey and milk together in such a form that I guess maybe it ferments a little bit and it has an intoxicating feature to it, he's not allowed to do the avoda. If he does the avoda, he's violated the law. So you see that there is a solid food that is an intoxicant, so maybe that's what the word sheichar means in the pasuk. So ela gomar sheichar mi nazir, malahalan yayin avkan yayin. So the Gemara says no. The word sheichar in the pasuk must be referring to a grape product, because the word sheichar also appears in the context of nazir, and there we know that the Torah only forbids to the nazir grape products. And so therefore, when the word sheichar is used, it's referring to a grape intoxicant product. And the only grape intoxicating product that we know of is wine, as in a beverage form. And that therefore proves that when the Torah uses the word achila, it uses it for both eating and drinking.
Doesn't sheichar also mean beer?
Yeah, but it means an intoxicating beverage. But in this context, it means wine.
Wait, is it being used as an adjective for what comes before?
No, yayin v'sheichar. Yayin is one thing, and sheichar is another thing. So sheichar is an intoxicating form of wine. But maybe there's two different kinds of wine, yayin and sheichar. Yayin could mean yayin in any form, whether it intoxicates or not, and sheichar refers to intoxicating wine.
So you couldn't buy beer then with the meiser money?
Well, the question is this list an exhaustive list? That I don't know. That would be a Meiser Sheni Shaila, not really germane to our topic today.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. Amar Rava, Af ana nami tanina, Shavua shelo ochal ve'achal v'shasa, eno chayev ela echas. So Rava says, guess what? I can prove that the word achila includes both eating and drinking from our Mishnah as well. Because our Mishnah goes out of its way to make a point of telling us that if a person just took a shavua that he's not going to be ochel, and then he ate and he drank, you might have thought he's chayiv doubly, he's only chayiv one time. So iomart bishlam shesiya bichlal achila itzterech le'letana la'ashmin and de'ino chayiv ela echas. I can understand if shesiya, drinking, is a form of achila, then it makes sense for the Tana to tell me that despite the fact that he's done two different forms of achila, he's only violating the shvuah once, because it's done, I guess, in one instance or in one sitting. But ela iamart shesiya lav bichlal achila shvuah shelo ochal ve'ochal ve'asa malacha mi'it mitzterich lashmin and deino chayev ela echas. But if you're going to argue that drinking is not even subsumed under the word achila, then it's difficult to understand what the point of the Tana is. Of course you're not going to be chayiv more than once if you eat and drink, if drinking is not part of achila, because would ever person ever entertain that if he's eating a sandwich while working, that he should be chayiv doubly? Working was never part of the shvuah. If drinking is not part of achila, then why would I even think, what does the Tana need to tell me a chiddush that you're only chayiv for eating and not for drinking? Obviously, you're not chayiv for drinking. It's not part of achila. So the chiddush, therefore, the Tana is that despite the fact that shesiya is part of achila, you're still only chayiv once. So Amar le Abaye elamai shesiya bichlal achila ema seifa. If you're going to say that, well, then you're going to have a problem with the next part of the Mishnah. Because what's the next part? Shvur shelo ochal v'shelo eshte v'ochal v'shasa chayiv shtayim. Kevin de Amar Shalo Ochal Itzule Bishasiya Ki Amar Shalo Eshta Amai Chayev. So Abaye has a very clever question. He says the next part of the Mishnah says that if a person takes a shvuah where he says, I swear that I will not eat and I swear that, and I will also not drink, right? So in that situation, if a person eats and drinks, then he is violating two parts of the shavua, and therefore he has to bring two karbanos. And the problem that I have with that, says Abaya, is if a person said, I'm not going to be oichel, and ochel includes both eating and drinking, then the second part of his statement should be null and void halachically, because he's just repeating himself when he says, I'm not going to drink. Because if you already said, I'm not going to be oichel, and that includes both eating and drinking, then by saying a second time, I'm not going to drink, why should that have any effect at all? Ilu omar shelo eshta trezimni mi michayev tarti. Because after all, if a person swears, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to drink, and because he just says the same phrase over again, would you entertain that he would be chayev twice? No, of course not. He's only made one shvu, and he just repeated himself in phrase A and phrase B. So here he's repeating himself. Why should he be chayev twice? So Amar Lei, Hasam da Amar Shalo Eshta, V'hadar Amar Shalo Ochal, De Shesia Bichlal Achila Isa, Achila Bichlal Shesia Lesa. So Rava says, oh no, you have to really reinterpret that statement in the Mishnah. What we're talking about is where a person said first, Shavua, that I'm not going to drink, and that he said afterwards, and I'm not going to eat. So the word Achila includes both eating and drinking, but the word Shesia only includes drinking. No one uses the word shesia to imply eating. They only use it to imply drinking. So because the first phrase was, I'm not going to drink, and then he said, I'm not going to eat, so therefore the first part takes hold on drinking, and the second part takes hold on the remainder, which is eating solid food. So what are you telling me, Rava? Aval amar shvo shelo eichal v'shelo eshta. So what are you suggesting? That if he did it in the order that is stated in the Mishnah, which is he said, I'm not going to eat, and then he said, I'm not going to drink, and then he eats and drinks, he's only in violation once, because achila includes both. So ihachi adatani reisha shavua shelo ochal va'achal v'shasa eno chayev ela echas, lisni shavua shelo ochal v'shelo eshta eno chayev ela echas, v'kol shekain shelo ochal lechudei. So then I have a different kasha. Why did the Tana bother to say the smaller chiddush of if a person says he swears I'm not going to eat, and then he eats and drinks, he's only chayev for one violation? Tell me an even bigger chiddush, that even if a person said I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink, because drinking is subsumed under the first phrase, the second phrase is null and void, and therefore even though he eats and drinks afterwards, he's only in violation of one phrase, and therefore only has to bring one carbon. That would have been an even bigger chiddush. Not only that if you say I'm not going to eat, you only have to bring one carbon after you eat and drink, but even if you said I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink, where there's even more of a reason to make you chayev twice because you use two phrases, you nevertheless are only chayev once. So ela la'olam kidikitani v'shayni hacha kevin da'amar shelo oichal v'hadar amar shelo eshta goli adaite dehach achila da'amar achila greitze. So Rava says, you know what, you're right. Don't change the order of the way it appears in the Mishnah. Really, a person said, I swear I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink. So why is it that he's chayev twice in that case when he eats and drinks? Because by saying after phrase A, I'm not going to eat. Why did he have to say I'm not going to drink? The fact that he said I'm not going to drink is revelatory. It reveals that when he said I'm not going to eat, the word eating there meant literally eating and not drinking. Because a person never says things that are nonsensical. So if he said first I'm not going to eat and then he said I'm not going to drink, that second phrase reveals that when he said I'm not going to eat, he meant literally not eating and not drinking. And therefore, because he made two phrases of a shvua, if he eats and drinks afterwards, he's in violation. But if he says I'm not going to eat stam, eating includes both eating and drinking.
Okay? In either case, he only said one korban. Even if he said, when his original intention was that I wasn't only going to eat, and didn't include, and then he said I'm not going to drink. If he does both, he's still only
just the opposite. If he says I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink, the Mishnah says if he eats and drinks, he brings two korbanos. Why is that? Because when the fact that he said I'm not going to drink after saying I'm not going to eat means that when he said I'm not going to eat, it means dafka eating and not drinking.
Is that
okay?
Is that inclusion of drinking only wine?
No. Here we're talking about
Like
eating and
water?
drinking. Anything. Because here there's no...
Because we were just discussing wine and intoxication.
No. We're going to talk about different cases as we go along. Amar Avashi masnisa namidika shvu shelo ochal ve'ochal ochlin she'ein ru'uyin la'achila v'shasa mashkin she'ein ru'uyin l'shasiya potter. I can even bring a later part of our Mishnah to prove that point. That when a person says, I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink, the second phrase reveals that the first phrase of I'm not going to eat means eating dafka. How can I prove that? From this case in the Mishnah later on, where it says that if a person took a shvuah that he's not going to eat, and then he goes ahead and he eats inedible food and undrinkable liquid. So the halacha is he's not in violation because eating and drinking assumes that it's got to be edible and drinkable. So ha-re'uyin chayiv. But that implies that if it is edible and is drinkable, he would be liable. So va'amai hashvuah shelo ochal ka'amar. But why should that be? He already took a shvuah that he's not going to eat, and eating includes shasiyah. So why should he be chayiv both for eating and for drinking? So you see from here that because he said eating first and then said drinking, that drinking phrase reveals that the eating phrase is only referring to eating. So the Gemara says, no, you can't necessarily bring a raya from there because Dilma da'amar tarte, shavua shelo oichal, shavua shelo eshta. It could be that in that instance, the Mishnah is referring to where a person said the word shavua explicitly twice. I swear that I'm not going to eat. I swear that I'm not going to drink. In that case, it's clear that he means to have two shavuas. And so, therefore, if he eats and drinks, he would be in violation of two shavuas. But you don't necessarily know from there that if a person says, I swear that I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink, with only using the word shavua one time, you can't necessarily prove them from there that he's going to be liable twice. So we're going to put that proof aside. It's not necessarily so. But at the end of the day, the Gemara seems to stick with the idea that if a person says, I swear I'm not going to eat and I'm not going to drink, the second phrase reveals that when he said I'm not going to eat, it means dafka solid foods. Okay, let us go weiter.
If he says I'm not going to eat, that's all he says, and he drinks,
then he is in violation. He's in violation because the word eating implies both eating and drinking. Correct. Next, shavua shelo ochal va'ochal paschitin v'chulei. Now, the next part of the Mishnah had said that if a person took a generic oath that he's not going to eat, and then he went ahead and he ate wheat bread and barley bread and spelt bread, even though it's three different kinds of food, but since he eats them all together, he's only in violation one time. However, by contrast, if a person said explicitly, I swear that I'm not going to eat wheat bread and barley bread and spelt bread, and he eats all three, so since he had three phrases within that shavua, he's in violation of all three, and therefore he'll be liable for three karbanos. Now, the Gemara says, but why should that be? V'dilma lemifter nafshe me'achar anaisi ka'asi. Maybe he doesn't mean to make three separate shavuos, three separate prohibitions, but rather what he means to say is, I'm only not going to eat wheat, barley, and spelt, but maybe rye bread I will eat. Maybe that's all he meant to say. He's trying to define the parameters of what's included in the shvuah, not to say that there are three prohibitions if I eat all three. So the Gemara says, no, if that were the case, then he didn't have to use the word bread in each phrase. He could have just said, I swear I'm not going to eat wheat, barley, and spelt. And that would have defined the parameters. But why did he have to say wheat bread, barley bread, spelt bread? It means that he wants to assign a separate isser to each one of those types of bread. That's not a raya, says the Gemara, v'dilma lakus. Maybe if he would have phrased it that way, you would have thought that he's prohibiting wheat kernels and barley kernels and spelt kernels and not the actual bread. So the Gemara says, okay, you're right. He should have prefaced by saying bread. I'm not going to eat the bread of wheat, barley, and spelt. Why did he have to say wheat bread, barley bread, spelt bread? So the fact that he used the word pas 3 times instead of only using it 1 time proves that he wants to create 3 isurim. But wait a minute, v'dilma pas chitin le'echol sarm v'kusmin lakus. But if you would have phrased it that way, I'm not going to eat the bread of wheat and barley and spelt, you might have thought that you could interpret it meaning that he's not going to eat wheat bread and he's not going to chew barley grain or spelt grain. So you're right, the Gemara says, Dahavale lememar pas chitin v'shel sor and v'shel kusmin. Here's what he should have said. He should have said at the beginning, I'm not going to eat bread made of wheat and made of barley and made of spelt. By saying the word v'shel, that indicates that he's talking about bread for each 3. No, but even there you're going to have a problem because v'dilma al yedei tarovis. Maybe he means to say that he's not going to eat multigrain bread. Maybe that's what he meant to say. If he would have phrased it that way, you would have thought that he's only prohibiting bread, 1 loaf of bread that's made up of all 3 grains. So the Gemara says, okay, Ema v'chein shel sa'arim v'chein shel kusmin. Pas, lama lishma minei lechalik. Okay, here's what he should have said. He could have said like this, I'm not going to eat the bread of wheat, and similarly of barley, and similarly of spelt. That phraseology of v'chein means he's dividing the breads as a separate loaf of wheat, a separate loaf of barley, a separate loaf of spelt. The fact that he used the word pas all 3 times unnecessarily indicates that he's not just delineating what's under the Shavua, but also creating 3 separate Isur. And that's how I know that he's going to be in violation all 3 times.
It's funny because Moore's having trouble figuring out what he should have said.
Yeah.
What's the guy going to figure out what he should have
guy
said?
Shouldn't say anything in the first
The
place.
guy's got to be taka very, very precise in his lashon. That's the point. Shavua shelo eshta v'shasa mashkim har b'yenu chayev ele'echas v'chulei. Next part of the Mishnah was to talk about a parallel case of drinking. If a person takes a generic oath that he's not going to drink, and he drinks all different kinds of beverages, he's only liable once. But if he made an explicit statement, I'm not going to drink wine, I'm not going to, or oil, or honey, so if he drank all 3, he's in violation 3 times. So the Gemara says, okay, we're back to our same question. Bishlama hasam damart miyasrele pas l'chiyuva. Elahacha mai havale l'meimar. Dilma lemiftar nafshe mimashkan achrini kasi. So the Gemara says, but we're back to our same question. You got out of the question before with the bread case because you said, well, the extraneousness of saying the word pas 3 times indicates that he means to include 3 separate isurim for each kind of bread. But over here, there's no extraneous language. He says, I swear that I'm not going to drink wine and oil and honey. So what's extraneous? There's no extra word pas over here. So Amar of Papa, and so therefore, but we're back to the question. Maybe all he's doing is defining what beverages are usher, to let's say, to exclude orange juice. So Amar of Papa, hacha b'munachal lefanav askinan, shahayla lomar shvush lo eshte, elu. So, no, I'll tell you why. Because we're talking about a case where a guy is in front of 3 glasses. 1 glass has wine, 1 glass has oil, 1 glass has honey. So he could have simply said, I swear I'm not going to drink these. The fact that he specified wine, oil, and honey means that he's creating 3 separate prohibitions. V'dilma eluhu delo shasina achrini shasina. But wait a minute. If he would have said, I'm not going to drink these, that would have implied that I'm only prohibiting these 3 glasses of liquid. But other liquids that are of the same kind, another bottle of wine or another bottle of oil, I am allowed to drink. So that's not a good phraseology. Ela da omer shvua de lo shasina kigon elu. So what he could have said was, I swear that I'm not going to drink like these. And by saying like these, he's saying I'm not going to drink wine, any wine, I'm not going to drink any honey, I'm not going to drink any oil. But wait a minute, Dilma kigon elu de lo shasina batzer mehachi utvei mehachi shasina. But maybe when he says I'm not going to drink like these, he means to talk about the volume. These are all in 5-ounce glasses. Maybe what he means to say is I'm not going to drink 5 ounces of these beverages, but I may drink 6 ounces or I may drink 4 ounces. Maybe that's all he means to say. So he's not excluding anything. In other words, how do you know that if he would have said it that way, that wouldn't have been sufficient to clarify what he means. So Ela kagon da'amar shavua shelo eshta mimina elu. So you're right, he could have said, I swear that I'm not going to drink from these kinds or from these types. What he means to say is not to refer to their volume, but rather to refer to what kind of beverage there are. That's what he could have said. And the fact that he specified wine, oil, and honey means to create three Yisurim. But wait a minute, that's also insufficient, because V'dilma min elu delo shasina, ha'inu gufayu shasina. But if he would have said, I'm not going to drink these kinds, maybe what he means to say is, I'm not going to drink any wine, oil, or honey that are not these glasses, that are not in these glasses. But what's in these glasses, I do plan to drink. So, Ema shalo eshte elu uminayu. So you're right. What he could have said is, I swear that I'm not going to drink these or anything like their kind. That's what he could have said. The fact that he specified wine, oil, and honey means to create three separate prohibitions. Rav Acha b'Rei Ravika Amar b'Mesarif bo Chavera Askinan Damar lo bo shasei imi yain v'shemen udavash Dahaya lo lomer shvu shelo eshte imach yain v'shemen udavash so shelo eshte imach semicolon yain v'shemen udavash lamali l'chayav al kol echas ve'echas. So Rav Acha has a more elegant explanation. It's not that we're talking about a guy who's standing in front of three glasses of beverage, but rather Ruvain turns to Shimon and says, come, my friend, let us go to my house and drink. And Shimon says, I refuse. And in sort of to emphasize his refusal, he takes the Shavuot. Now, he should have just said, because since Ruvain said to him, let us go to my house where we can drink wine and oil and honey, all Shimon had to do was to swear, I swear that I'm not going to drink with you, because you've already specified what beverages you have in your house. The fact that he repeated those explicit beverages and said, I swear that I'm not going to drink wine, oil, and honey with you, means that he wants to create three separate Isurim, so that if I drink all three in your house, I'm in violation three times. Tanan Has. Now let's look at another halacha, which we're going to see later on, but this is halacha in Dinei Mamanis, right, where this is a shvuas kfiras hapikada, that if a person swears that he denies owing property or money, and he swears falsely, there too he's in violation of a shvuah. The Mishnah says later on, Tein lichitin usorin v'kusmin sheyesh li biyadcha, shvuah she'en lecha biyadi klum, eno chayev ela echas. But shvuah she'en lecha biyadi chitin usorin v'kusmin, chayev al kol echas ve'echas. The Mishnah says that if Ruvain says to Shimon, now Shimon, you owe me wheat, you owe me barley, you owe me spelt. That's what you owe me. And Shimon says, I don't know what you're talking about. I swear that I don't owe you anything. So if it turns out that Hitaka owes him, he was lying and he owes him wheat, barley, and spelt, he's only in violation once of the shvuah. But if Shimon takes the shvuah as follows, he says, I swear that I don't owe you wheat, or barley, or spelt, and he specifies those three, he means to be in violation of the shvuah three times if he's lying. And therefore, if it turns out that he is lying, he's got to bring three separate karbanos. And Rabbi Yochanan adds to that, and he says that it's theoretically possible for Shimon to be chayev a korban for lying, for violating his shvuah, if the claim was, you owe me one pruta, and that one pruta is comprised of three different kinds of grain. The chiddush that Rabbi Yochanan is pointing out is that even if Shimon denies the claim, based on the claim of being one pruta, but the pruta is made up of a portion of the pruta is from one grain, and another grain, his denial of saying, I owe you nothing, will still make him liable for the violation, even though when Reuven made the claim, his claim was broken down into separate components. You owe me wheat, you owe me barley, you owe me spelt. Therefore, you could have argued that, well, the claim was on a third of a pruta here, a third of a pruta there, a third of a pruta there, and Shimon's denial, therefore, will not make him liable. The chiddush of Rabbi Yochanan is, since he denies everything, he'll be liable a korban for denying in total a shava pruta. Now, pligi ba Rav Acha v'Ravina, chad omer aprati michayev akloli lo michayev, v'chad omer akloli nomi michayev, and therefore hachamai. So then the Gemara tells us something very interesting. In that Mishnah over there, where Reuven tells Shimon, you owe me wheat, you owe me barley, you owe me spelt, and then Shimon X says explicitly, I swear I don't owe you wheat or barley or spelt, that he's chayav for each and every one. There's a machlokas. How many karbanos will Shimon have to bring? 3 or 4? Now, what's the machlokas? Do we only hold him liable for denying the specifics of wheat, barley, and spelt, or do we hold him liable for those 3 plus an additional carbon of being a kofar bakol, of denying everything in toto? So one Manda Amar says that we hold that you're going to be liable for, because you hold you liable for the denial of the separate components, plus we hold you liable for denying everything. And the other Manda Amar says no, that would be double dipping. You're only going to be liable for denying the individual components, but you're not liable for denying the thing in toto. So hachamai. So the question now is, what about in our Mishnah, in both the case of the bread and the wine, where a person says a shavua, I'm not going to eat wheat bread, I'm not going to eat barley bread, I'm not going to eat spelt bread, or the same thing with the drinking, I'm not going to drink wine, oil, or honey. So in that situation, if he violates the shvuah, we said he's chayav for each one. Is there going to be that similar machlokus where that mandamer will hold that you're liable for a 4th carbon as well for violating the thing in toto, or not? So Amar Rava hachi hashta hasa michayv aklalo michayv aprata dahayi mishtaba v'hadur mishtaba michayv tarti hacha isal kadaitach isa b'chlola aprati amay michayv mushba va'omedu. So Rava gives a very interesting svar. He says, no, everyone would hold here that you're only liable for only 3 karbanos, and you wouldn't have to bring a carbon for the 4th. He says, why is it that there's a mandamer who says you're liable for the 4th? Because it's possible to be liable multiple times for the same denial. If Reuven goes over to Shimon on Monday and says, you owe me $100, and Shimon swears falsely that he doesn't owe, and then Reuven comes to him on Tuesday and says, come on, you owe me $100, and Shimon swears the second time that he doesn't owe, every time Shimon swears falsely on the denial, he's going to be chayiv a separate carbon, because each one is a separate denial. But that's only in dinei mamanis. When it comes to isurim, where I prohibit something upon myself, if I've already prohibited something upon myself as individual items, if I then later on group them all together and say that I'm not going to eat, since I've already prohibited these items upon myself, I can't be held liable a second time. If I'm already prohibited from this substance, swearing a second time that I'm not going to eat it, does not make me liable a second time if I eat it, because I've already been forsworn originally. And therefore, it makes no sense to suggest that I can be held liable for both the generic group statement and on the individual components as well, over here. Okay, let us go weiter. Shavua shelo ochal v'chulei. Now, there are 2 statements towards the end of our Mishnah. One is where a person says, I swear I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to drink, and he eats inedibles and he drinks undrinkables or unpotables. And there the Mishnah says that you're pater. But then the very next statement of the Mishnah was, what if a person swears that he's going to eat non-kosher food or drink non-kosher beverage? If he goes ahead and drinks it, according to the Chachamim, he's going to be chayiv, and according to Reb Shimon, he's going to be pater. The Gemara's Havamina is that there really should be no difference between those 2. In both cases, I swore that I'm not going to eat, and the assumption is that I'm not going to eat things which I normally would be permitted to eat, or which I would normally eat. And there's no difference, therefore, between swearing I'm not going to eat, and I eat dirt, and swearing I'm not going to eat, and I eat a piece of chazer. In both cases, I'm doing something that's not included in this statement, I'm not going to eat. So therefore, why should it be that in one case I'm pater, in the other case I'm chayiv? That's the Gemara's question. Hagufa kasha. Amar shvu shelo oichal va'achal ochlin shein ru'uyin la'achila v'shos ha'mashkin shein ru'uyin l'shtiya pater. V'hadur tani shvu shelo oichal va'achal nevelos u'treifel shkatzum u'ramoshim chayiv. Maishna reisha the pater, maishna seifa the chayiv. Why is it that in the first case, if I eat dirt, I'm pater, but in the second case, if I swore I'm not going to eat, and I ate chazer, then I'm going to be chayiv? What's the difference? In both cases, I'm eating something that it's not called eating, because they're both things that are not edible. So the Gemara says, Halo kasha reisha b'stam v'seifa b'mefaresh. So the Gemara says, if that's your only question, I could answer that question. It could be that the reisha is talking about where I said generically I'm not going to eat. So eating means only foods that I'm normally would be permitted to eat. And therefore, if I eat dirt, that's not called eating, and therefore I'm patur. The second part of the Mishnah is where I swore I'm not going to eat even treif. I said that explicitly. Since I said I'm not going to eat bacon, I'm not going to eat chazer, and I go ahead and eat chazer, so then that's the reason why I'm liable. But wait a minute. But I have another question. Even if I said explicitly I'm not going to eat chazer, why should I be in violation of the shvuah? After all, something that was prohibited upon me at Mount Sinai, God placed a shvuah upon me to accept the whole Torah. So if I've already been forsworn at Mount Sinai, why then should I be liable if I swear a second time? It's like swearing a second time I'm not going to eat something that's already prohibited to me through a shvuah. So why should I be liable? Why should I be in violation of my personal shvuah if the Torah already placed a shvuah upon me at Har Sinai not to eat chazer? So the Gemara answers two different answers. Rav u'Shmuel v'Rebbi Yochanan damri b'choilel dvarim hamutar mimdoram ha'asurim. So the first answer is from these three Amoraim, Rav, Shmuel, and Rabbi Yochanan, and they say that it is possible to place a shvuah upon yourself to prohibit something that was already prohibited to you by the Torah, if you, in the course of that shvuah, include things that are permitted to you. So let's say, for example, a person says, I swear I'm not going to eat eggs or bacon. So in that situation, because eggs are permitted, the fact that the shvuah can be chal on the egg part makes it possible for the shvuah to be chal on the bacon part as well. It's almost like a gildush shvuah. It's where you're koilel, where you're creating additional, you're adding additional isser that the Torah does not prohibit, and therefore the shvuah can be chal on that part which the Torah already prohibited. So that's one answer, how it could work. V'reish Lakish Amar Iya Tamotzi Ela Ibe Mefarish Chatzi Shir V'Aliba de Rabbanon Ibistam Aliba de Rabbi Akiva Damar Adam Oyser Atzma B'Chol Shu. So Rabbi Akiva says, I have another answer. My answer is that where the person, when he says I'm not going to eat bacon, is prohibiting upon himself something that the Torah does not prohibit, which is less than a kazayas. Because when the Torah prohibits bacon, it only prohibits eating a kazayas, an olive size worth of bacon. So technically, if a person were to eat a half a kazayas of bacon, that's fine. So what a person means to say when he says, I swear I'm not going to eat bacon, he's prohibiting upon himself something additional to that which the Torah does not prohibit, which is a chatzi shir, half the amount that the Torah prohibits. Now, there's a machlokus between the Chachamim and Rabbi Akiva, whether a person has to state that explicitly or not. According to the Chachamim, you would have to state explicitly, I swear I'm not going to eat a half a kazayas of bacon. And if you just said, I swear I'm not going to eat bacon, according to the Chachamim, that shvuah is null and void. But according to Rabbi Akiva, it's implicit. When you swear I'm not going to eat bacon, what you mean implicitly to say is, I'm not going to eat that which the Torah permits me to eat, which is less than a kazayas. So the Gemara now says, okay, fine. We've got two answers. Bishlam or Rabbi Yochanan lo amar karesh lakish. Demukim lo lamasnisin kedivrei hakol. Elo reish lakish my time lo amar karebi Yochanan. I can understand why Rabbi Yochanan doesn't subscribe to Reish Lakish's explanation, because the only way it'll work when a person just says, Stam, I'm not going to eat bacon, is if you hold like Rabbi Akiva, that implicit in that statement is that you're not going to eat a chatzi shir. Because according to the Chachamim, you would have to specify that. So Rabbi Yochanan says, I'm not happy with that answer, because it only works according to Rabbi Akiva when you don't say explicitly, I'm not going to eat a chatzi shir. Fine, I understand why Rabbi Yochanan uses the principle of an Isser Kolel. But why doesn't Reish Lakish like Rabbi Yochanan's answer? What's wrong with Rabbi Yochanan's answer? A person took a shvuah that he's not going to eat eggs or bacon. So therefore, since it's chal because of the eggs, it could be chal because of the bacon too. So Amar Lacha ki amrinan Isser Koilel be'Isser haba me'elav be'Isser haba yedei atzmo lo amrina. The answer is, and this is what we'll finish with, is that Reish Lakish holds that this principle of Isser Koilel is a true principle, that a shvuah or a prohibition can set in upon a pre-existing prohibition, but only if that secondary prohibition occurs ipso facto by itself. that it's caused to set in by the Ribbono Shel Olam himself. And the example that's given is like this. What if a person eats nevela on Yom Kippur? Is he in violation of eating on Yom Kippur, or is he only in violation of eating nevela, of eating carrion? So there, it seems, right, so Rashi brings that there's the deya is, according to the Chachamim, you're in violation both of eating carrion and of eating on Yom Kippur. Now, why should that be? You've got a pre-existing Isser of nevela. Why should the Isser of Yom Kippur set in on top of the pre-existing Isser of nevela? And the answer is because when Yom Kippur sets upon us, when the sun sets on the 10th of Tishrei, it prohibits additional foods that were previously permitted to me on the 9th of Tishrei. So since it includes, Yom Kippur is inclusive of all food, so since the chalos of the Yom Kippur can prohibit kosher food, it also can prohibit non-kosher food as well. That's what is meant by an Isser Kola. But for me to take a Shavua, to add on to a prohibition of bacon, just because I'm including other things, since that's not happening through the under the rubric or under the direction of Hashem, but it's happening because I want to place that additional Isser on, then we don't say Isser Kolel according to Reish Lakish. Okay? That's the thing that we'll stick with today. We'll hold it here for today.